was it like to grow up as a gay person? I think initially it's quite daunting because you realise that you're different from everybody else, and I think there is when I was growing up, sort of the late 90s, early 2000s, and I know that's not too long ago, but we're talking 20 years now. Society wasn't as open as it is now, and there was still quite a lot of prejudice. There was a lot of unfair behaviour towards the gay community.
Growing up as a gay person, especially at my age, was pretty vile, I've got to be totally honest. I realised, well, there were a number of things different about me, but I knew that my sexuality didn't fit the norm when I was quite a young child. I mean, 8, 9, 10, and definitely by the age of 11. I was aware that there were kind of difficulties. Now, if you think that this is kind of like the mid to late 70s, role models, there was Larry Grayson or John Inman. They were kind of like gay stereotypes that were kind of like available. There was no information about the fact that as a gay person that you could be in a relationship, be happy, be just a regular person. So I absolutely loathed myself. I really did.
I think to grow up as a gay person is very confusing, and I suppose this is people would have a different answer to this question, but for me it was very confusing. And it was confusing because I had every reference point around me reinforced the fact that being attracted to someone of the opposite sex was the norm. So it wasn't even that there was like active homophobia or against me. As a kid, I wasn't called gay or anything like that. It wasn't for that. It was just a lack of reference points. So I include in that, my own kind of your parents. I suppose, what are your reference points when you're a kid growing up, and your upbringing shapes who you are and what you believe and what you think about yourself. And my mum and dad, though they were separated, they were a heterosexual couple. So that was the first reference point ticked off. All of my friends at that time were very laddie, you would say, in a traditional sense. I always really naturally liked football and sport and kind of doing what you would expect groups of lads would do.
Okay, my coming out story was very much peaks and troughs. After coming out of the army, realising that I wasn't straight, knowing exactly who and what I was, went back to do my A-levels, and I had a small group of people that I got on quite well with. And over a period of a couple of months, one at a time in isolation, I started telling them that I either told them I was bisexual or I told them that I was gay, depending on how comfortable with that person I felt. And that was actually quite nice until somebody in the group told somebody outside the group, and it then spread around where I was doing my A-levels like wildfire, and everybody turned against me. All the group of friends that had been my friends joined the group of people that found it disgusting and repellent and repugnant, and I got physical threats of violence, and they started making phone calls to my home. I took my mum to one side, and so I said, look, this is happening. Once again, I told her I was bisexual because, like I say, that seemed like such a cop-out at the time. She burst into tears, then stopped and went, so what? You're still you. Doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But whatever you do, don't tell your dad. Don't tell your dad. And I wouldn't tell your sister if I were you. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Got my A-levels, went to university, group of friends again, slowly and gently kind of like felt how they would be and stuff like that. And eventually I ended up telling most of my friends at university that I was gay. And just that kind of like couple of years difference, nobody cared, or so it seemed. So the Christmas break, I was at home. I didn't bother unpacking my bag because I decided that I wanted wanted to tell my dad, and I thought, well, if push comes to shove, I've got somewhere I can go to, I can get the bus. So I was so awkward and obvious. It was kind of like at the end, kind of like mid-evening, so I said, Dad, look, there's something I've got to tell you. He said, okay, fair enough. And I went, look, Dad, I'm gay. And genuinely, his first line to me was, thank God for that. I thought you were going to say you'd got somebody pregnant. And that was it. From that moment on, me and my dad, just something clicked.
You know, I remember distinctly and thinking, I've got to do this. And I remember, you know, having these pamphlets from the university LGBT office, and, you know, there's a pamphlet about, you know, how to come out, you know, a leaflet you can give to your parents. And I was thinking, you know, they're making this out that it's going to be this big, wonderful, you know, life-inspiring event. And I'm absolutely petrified of this. And it doesn't come out. You don't come out in the way in which you read. You never, you know, I've never known anybody to do that. And I certainly wasn't the exception to that rule. And it just ends up that you just blurt it out and you drop this bombshell. And all you can do is sort of wait to see where it lands and then wait for the reaction. And, you know, my dad's words will stick with me for the rest of my life. And he said, but you're still my son. And that is all I ever needed to know. That's all I've ever needed to know.
One of my close friends I've known for 20 years, it was very, very challenging for them, which was quite sad, because she was quite young when she wanted to come out. And with the Asian community, it's a very taboo subject. People don't really talk about their sexuality. And I think for her, the challenge was, how does she come out in a safe environment? For her, sadly, she had to leave home and move away from the family. She actually came out to her friends first, and until she felt comfortable to actually talk to her mother. Her mother has actually accepted her relationship now, and they share a more cordial relationship. But one of her fears is coming out to the actual community, because I think that the community is still very closed community. And what we've got to remember is that within some of the countries where Asian people come from, homosexuality and also same-sex relationships is actually against the law. And I know within India, it was only just within the last sort of 2 years, they've actually lifted some of those laws. And I did say to her, you know, who are you seeing? Who are you dating? Why is it you're still single? And I think it was at that point where she actually said, well, actually, I am, you know, a lesbian, and I feel that sometimes I can't discuss my sexuality. And I did say to her that, you know, I was so glad that she actually shared that with me, because sometimes you need a friend to talk to. I think her mother used to keep pestering her, used to keep trying to introduce her to young men at weddings and parties. And I think there came a point where she actually said to her mom, I'm not interested in getting married. And I think then her mom just actually said to her why. And she actually said, I'm not interested in men. You know, I don't like men. And her mother, bless her, I think she did say that she was very quiet and she was trying to process what her daughter was trying to say. And then my friend was very open and just said, Mom, I like women. And her mom, I think, felt quite frightened for her, and also about what the community were, you know, the Asian community, what they were going to say, because she felt they may ostracize her and she may not be welcome into the temple or into family events. So mom actually said to her, keep it quiet, don't share it, which was, you know, which she said she found quite sad, because she wanted her mom to accept it. It took her mother a few years, but now she's actually shared it with her siblings. And what she's found is such a big relief now that at least her mother and her siblings are aware. of her sexuality, and they are very, very supporting, but they haven't shared this with the wider community yet.
It gives you an immense feeling of community when you see, you know, people walking the streets of Birmingham, Manchester, London, Brighton, and even the smaller towns now that are doing it, you know, Derby, Nottingham, and actually seeing people come together, you know, with that flag as the symbol. I think it is so empowering, and it's so important to have that, because, you know, we don't want to be forgotten, we don't want to be left by the wayside, and, you know, we are a voice, we need to be heard, we're going to be heard, and, you know, we're going to stick together, and that is why it is so important to me.
You know, my big hope is that one day, and I do think we'll get there in our lifetime, kids don't have to come out, you know, they know that if they bring home a boy or a girl, it's okay, and that will be the first time their parents know who they like, and even then it might not be, because they might be bisexual or whatever, and you know, it's about the person, basically, because it's not a nice thing to have to do, and I resented having to do it for years, which was kind of cutting my nose off to spite my face, I guess, really. But I resented the fact that I had to sit down and tell somebody such a fundamental part of who I was. And I hope one day people don't have to do that.
If people are struggling with their sexuality, they need to work out who they are and be happy with it. There is so much change happening so quickly, and there is so much change in every single person that they just need to work out what's going to make them happy, whoever they actually are inside. There's nothing wrong with that. They are exactly the person they're meant to be.
One thing, I could have had one thing when I was growing up as a gay person, it would have been to have the support network and the community support that there is out there now, because I know people who actually volunteer and work for them, and, you know, they do an amazing job. They do an absolutely amazing job, and I don't say this lightly, they actually save people's lives. And I think that is such a big thing, because how many people have we lost, you know, through suicide, through self-harm, because they've had this massive responsibility on their shoulder, they've had nobody to speak to. So yeah, talk, you know, channel that emotion, process that emotion, and, you know, don't be afraid to be who you are, because, you know, there's something inside of each and every one of us. We all have the ability to be a shining star. Let's not sort of get dragged into a black hole and never realise that potential, because that's too sad.